kinds of things, but we thought we'd bring you that the day after this summit. What about the fallout from it and what comes next? Let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes, editor-in-chief of the Weekly Standard, Mollie Hemingway, senior editor at the Federalist, and Eli Lake, columnist for Bloomberg View. Okay, a lot of reaction, Mollie, on Capitol Hill. Some positive from Republicans saying it needed, you heard the speaker there. Others saying they're concerned that things are still on the table, and you hear the world reacting that maybe Kim got everything he wanted.
Right, you're hearing a lot of poo-pooing, a lot of claims that Kim got everything he wanted. The fact is, we really don't know what will come out of this deal. We have a light framework. All of it will be worked out in the details. We will need to see substantive talks. They'll need to move quickly, but it could actually take many months, many years to achieve what we need to see. This is a good start, and at worst, it's a neutral. At best, it's a very good start, but we have to work out a lot of particulars.
What struck you in that interview, Steve?
I was struck by the president once again saying that he wants to get U.S. troops home, which I think the North Koreans have been asking for a long time, looks to be a concession. I was also struck by his answer, or probably better phrased, his non-answer on human rights. You pressed him on it twice. The first time, he sort of dodged the question and then found a way to praise Kim Jong-un for his strength and his toughness. The second time, he downplayed human rights abuses in North Korea by saying, yeah, basically everybody is guilty of some things. He could go through a long list of nations that have those problems. So I was struck by that. The other parts of it, I think, on the North Korea, on the denuclearization question itself, was consistent with what he heard. He's obviously very proud of himself.
Eli.
Well, call me old-fashioned, but I like to believe America is a beacon of democracy and freedom, and that when the American elected president meets with tyrants like Kim Jong-un, there should be, at the very least, a refrain not to go out of his way to basically lie about the nature of this person. And at one point he said in another interview, the North Korean people loved Kim Jong-un. We know that's not true. And in your interview with this kind of thing where you're saying, well, there's a lot of bad people that do a lot of bad things, that is a sentiment that we normally associate with Noam Chomsky and the hard left, that try to explain away and rationalize the horrors of these Stalinists like Kim Jong-un. So as a general rule, I don't really like that kind of thing, and of course, it would be great if you got a deal that got rid of the nuclear, and I'm not saying don't do diplomacy, but I don't think that Trump needed to go as far as he did in his flattery.
I too wish that President Trump had spoken against the human rights abuses in North
Korea. He did speak, we're told, in the summit behind closed doors about human rights.
I wish he would speak more when we talk to him about it now. But it's also true that what he is attempting to achieve right now is a positive pitch. He's trying to paint a vision for Kim that he has a different path that should be going. And his goal, President Trump's goal, is to make sure that the people of Portland aren't bombed by North Korea. You have this thing with neoconservatism, militarism, fused with moral idealism that seeks to achieve everything but ends up accomplishing nothing, and doing so at a huge cost of blood and money. And so I think it's important that we understand we have our national interest here. We want to keep from getting into a nuclear war, and we will hopefully substantively deal with human rights abuses, which are serious and need to be dealt with. But that's not our first concern.
Well, if I may respond, an old neocon militarist by the name of Ronald Reagan managed to negotiate arms control agreements and have a relationship with Soviet premiers and still keep a laser-like focus on the dissidents who were rotting in their gulags. And when the Soviet Union fell, that was something that many of those former dissidents, when they were free, remembered. They said it was something that gave them hope. I'm sorry, but I hold out that kind of expectation. I'm not expecting a negotiation where Kim Jong-un suddenly becomes a Jeffersonian Democrat. I understand that's not going to happen. But at the same time, there's a difference between that and having an American president basically become, in some ways, sort of, part of the dictator's lie about his popularity with his own people.
Is there some of this that is, what if? What if 3 summits down the road it really does happen? What if the paradigm has shifted? What if the people who were looking at this as a breakthrough are the right ones, and the ones that are very scared about the potential are the wrong ones?
Yeah, look, that's possible. Anything's possible, right, at this point. But I think you don't have to be a realist or a so-called realist to recognize that it's a problem for the President of the United States to say things that aren't true. The President came back and tweeted that North
So let me
Korea
read
was
these
no
tweets.
longer a nuclear threat. That's
All right,
just
just
false.
landed, long trip, but everyone can now feel much safer than the day I took office. There is no longer a nuclear threat from North Korea. Meeting Kim Jong-un was an interesting and very positive experience. North Korea has great potential for the future. Before taking office, people were assuming that we were going to war with North Korea. President Obama said North Korea was our biggest and most dangerous problem. No longer sleep well tonight. We save a fortune by not doing war games as long as we are negotiating in good faith, which both sides are.
Right, and realists and non-interventionists pride themselves on seeing the world as it is. That's the whole basis of their philosophy. That is not describing the world as it is. North Korea, it remains a first-order threat. North Korea still has nuclear weapons. North Korea still has a tyrant dictator as its leader. They present a threat to the United States. There's no getting around that. And for the President of the United States to come back, however proud he is of what he's done, and say that North Korea is no longer a nuclear threat, that's a problem. 4 months ago, going into this, before the summit was announced, the position of the administration was, we won't even talk to the North Koreans unless they take concrete, verifiable steps towards denuclearization. They just abandoned that, which is its own concession. And now, 4 months later, with the only intervening event being the signing of a document by a dictator whose forebears have lied about things for 30 years, they're now saying there's no more nuclear threat.
Yeah, I think you're just seeing a lot of frustration that things have gone so well. A lot of people said that everything that Donald Trump was doing would not go well for him or for the United States. His bellicose tweeting supposedly had us on the brink of nuclear war. We all see what happened in the summit. We're not naive. It's not like the nuclear weapons magically disappeared, but we saw that we have a very good start, and if it doesn't continue to go well, we will have to renegotiate.
Do you think North Korea is a nuclear threat still?
Everyone understands.
Okay, the president said that the opposite.
What we all know is that we had very good talks, that we have a good framework, that we have a good way to
Do
proceed.
you disagree with the president's assertion?
But, you know, there is something about taking him literally and taking him figuratively, and the tweets and what they mean, and reading between Trump language. I mean, there is all that you have to factor in. But you're right. It's still a nuclear threat tonight. There's no doubt about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we can decide that we don't want to, for our own reasons, take President Trump's words literally. That is not a luxury that the rest of the world has, and I guarantee you it's not something that Kim Jong-un is, and it puts Mike Pompeo in a box who's now got the very difficult task of constructing a verification regime when the president has already declared that there's no longer a threat.
I would argue that the American people have far less trouble understanding President Trump than a select few here in this town do.
I got 10 seconds.
Well, we'll see what happens, but I don't think the president should be taking a victory lap. Look at President Obama's deal with Syria and nuclear and chemical weapons. We saw how well that did.
All right, there you have it.